Well, hello, Saskatchewan, and welcome to the SportsCage on 620 CKRM, and of course, streaming online and through video at sportscage.com. It's Dave Thomas, voice of your Saskatchewan Roughriders, along with Chris Mazurek in for Barney Shankaruk here on a Wednesday afternoon. A big show coming up. As soon as we get Chris Mazurek's microphone working, we'll be all systems go. But in the meantime, big day coming up. The Saskatchewan Roughriders are back on the practice field, and we'll have the latest on Trevor Harris. He was in the building, but he wasn't on the field. We'll tell you about that coming up, as well as what you can anticipate with other injury updates that were provided following the conclusion of practice today at Mosaic Stadium. The Saskatchewan Roughriders, in case you missed it, 2.1 million reasons to smile. How come? Well, they announced what the 2024 fiscal year was like. We'll get to that, as well as much more coming up in the world of sports here on this Wednesday afternoon. So Chris Mazurek is going to join us and take over the controls in just a moment, but let's get down to business with what's happening with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Today, it was day 2 of their 5-day work week, and what that means is that they were putting in and installing their game plan, but we also had a better idea of what it looked like when it came to that roster. And as I mentioned, yes, Trevor Harris was not on the field at all today, unlike yesterday. So he is definitely going to be questionable when it comes to the BC Lions coming up this weekend. Now, you can also see Trevon Campbell, who had that interception a week ago, still dealing with that back injury. He was limited in his participation. Also, we didn't see Samuel Emelis on the field again today. Keyshawn Johnson was back, and I think probably the most uplifting story today was the fact that Sean Bain Jr., who we've seen working his tail off on the side of the field day in and day out, grinding to get back into the lineup after sustaining that late season knee injury a year ago. Sean Bain Jr. actually had a practice jersey on today. Now, he took part in a couple of scout team drills, not doing a whole bunch with the team, but just getting that jersey on the road to recovery is huge for Sean Bain Jr. and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So positive day in that aspect, Maz.
On the Trevor Harris front, I've heard you say it could be an illness. It could be, is this lingering effects from that hit in Toronto, potentially that cheap shot that he took last Friday?
Well, and that's the big thing right now is the team is being careful and cautious, which you have to do with athletes, right? In 2025, and the information that we've got at our disposal when it comes to head injuries and what they can mean, obviously you're going to keep the athlete's interests in mind. And so is that a possibility? Absolutely it is. And Coach Mace kind of alluded to that a little bit. He's also got an infection going on, is what Coach was kind of alluding to today, and I'm not sure what that entails, what that means. I'm not a medical professional. I could try to read that 10,000 different ways, but definitely, again, there is some concern. It was a heck of a hit, and that's what Corey Mace classified it as, a heck of a hit that he took at the end of that play last week.
We'll get to the Mace interview in just a sec. One question. Was Mitch Picton there at the start of practice, and did he end up leaving at some point and then not returning?
He was there, and then he went off, and then he came back. And so when he left, it was Deshaun Mims that was taking the majority of the reps at his spot. So we'll have to wait and see what it is with Mitch. Of course, he was nicked up right at the start of the season, a little, as he described it to me, an injury that was lingering at the start of camp. And at one point, he felt that he was all over it. So hopefully it didn't retweak or anything, but he was there, and then he did come back for a bit as well. So we'll have to wait and see on Mitch too.
The hottest email that gets sent out in Saskatchewan every day by the Saskatchewan Roughriders is that injury report. Dave, I don't know what it is, but thankfully we keep winning, but the numbers and the bodies and then some of the people involved in this, it's growing and concerning. What have you seen from Jake Maier, who has been taking the number 1 reps? And we all know Jake's been a starter in the league with the Calgary Stampeders. I think he's looked good in his time in a green jersey when we did get a chance to see him play in the preseason or whatever. How's his practice week been?
As expected, I think is probably the best way, because again, he's not getting the number of reps that he's familiar with. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that he's rusty or anything. It's just a different process for him to get ready, but he's come in, he's executed the offense. Coach Mace made probably the best point of all today post practice when he said, when it comes to Jake Maier, he's probably had more reps in this offense than anyone else, having worked with Mark Mueller for as long as he did in Calgary. So there's a comfortability that is there. There's obviously a trust that he's got in the people around him, and the people around him, by all accounts, have as much trust in him. So that's what Jake Maier is to provide as a veteran presence that could be a starter on a number of teams, I would submit, in the Canadian Football League. So he'll come back. Is he Trevor Harris? No, but he's Jake Maier, which I think is okay.
Remember when you used to go to hockey games and you would have to buy the program to know who was playing on the teams? Saturday at Mosaic, they may have to have a paper program at every turnstile as people are coming in just to be like, oh, who is it out there? And who is suiting up? This will put your rider knowledge, especially guys like you who have to call the play to the test, to be like, there's some unfamiliar numbers that may be getting some significant playing time on Saturday.
Yes. Yeah. You know what? The one thing is that I will submit, though, is that it could be worse, because all of a sudden the Riders' injury situation, when you start looking at what Toronto is dealing with, what they're looking at up in Edmonton right now, maybe even you go ahead and extend it over into Ottawa. Ottawa doesn't have their starting quarterback either. So you look at some of the other teams' injury situations, and again, Ottawa's banged up pretty good right now too. Like, it's really not that bad for the Saskatchewan Roughriders as far as, there's some injuries there, but they're not huge, significant injuries in the fact that the players that are banged up aren't expected back for a long time, right? There's not a lot of long-term. There's more short-term stuff right now.
There are a lot of people looking forward to probably around 8:30-ish on Saturday night. Hopefully the game is done by then. Then it's a bye week for the Saskatchewan Roughriders and a chance to have a little time off. Oh, maybe you're counting down as well. All right. Coach Mace, should we get to that interview? You had a chance to catch up with him after practice?
For sure. Absolutely, we can. And one of the things that was right off the hop that we had to learn, right? What's up with Trevor Harris?
I think it's tomorrow will be the final decision maker for that. So again, we got the luxury of tomorrow. So again, just trying to play it smart, but tomorrow we'll make the final decision on that.
Now, Dave, do you honestly think if he does come in on that final day, and it's Trevor Harris, it's not like this guy needs to know, but is in the CFL, is one day of practice enough to be ready for the game?
Depends who you are. You said it right there. If you're Trevor Harris, I think you can come in and go, 2-3 days without practice and maybe even just attend the walkthrough and still be good to go if you say that you're good to go and feel good to go.
Okay. All right. I wonder we can just keep trucking here with everything else that Mace had to say after practice today.
We went and asked then what you had mentioned, right? Is this a concussion related to the hit that he took in Toronto?
Yeah, I mean, it was a big hit, so, we did keep eyes to that, you know what I mean, and protecting the players. It's kind of just what we're about here in that situation. But also, too, he's, like I said, he is dealing with some kind of infection. I don't know. But for this standpoint, yeah, we're being careful from the hit to the head.
So there you go, right? So it could even be a sinus infection for all that I know, right? Could be an ear infection. I know that people in my family get ear infections every time that we fly. So I don't know. But again, he wasn't on the practice field, which meant that Jake Maier was taking the number one team reps once again. And we just wanted to know the coach's assessment of what he looked like in camp.
Yeah, man, just getting comfortable. Repetitions obviously will solidify belief. You know what I mean? So now getting a full day, full couple days now, being the one back there, I think only more reps will help him. But certainly, man, he's Jake Maier. That's why you bring him in there, and we've got nothing but confidence in the kid.
So that allowed me to add, what are the two things that Coach Mace says when he brings up injuries? Number one, every football coach says, next man up, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is that next man up has to meet the standard that they have set, right? And that's the expectation going in. So I asked Coach, do you need to change anything in order for Jake to be able to meet that standard when it comes to what your offense looks like with Jake Maier at the controls as opposed to Trevor Harris?
No, I don't think so. I mean, arguably, Jake's had more reps in this offense than Trevor. So there's not. We are who we are, and we got to go execute regardless of who's back there.
So the task at hand on Saturday is going to be the British Columbia Lions, and you look at the numbers, and I would submit that you look when you've got the number 2 offense in terms of yards. You look at the defense, which ranks the top 5 in terms of yardage. Like, this is a pretty good team that's 1-2 coming in, and again, there was a bit of a rivalry that was created last year between these two teams, thanks to the Riders hosting that West semifinals. So Coach Mace already putting in a defensive game plan for what he expects from the BC Lions offense.
They got some hogs out there. They got some big boys out there. But, and it's a scheme and quarterback making the proper reads, getting the ball out quick can help an offensive line as well. But, at some point, depending on the situation in the game, quarterbacks are going to have to stand back there. So it's our job from a defensive line standpoint to be disruptive. That's all we're asking. The sacks will come. Be disruptive because you could affect the play without getting a sack.
So who's going to be
Dave.
disruptive?
Yeah. Well, to that point is with BC, talk about injury. Is it going to be Nathan Rourke? Jeremiah Masoli? They were splitting number one reps. Nobody knows. I think a lot of us in Rider Nation know who we'd like to face. And it's not necessarily Nathan Rourke. I think Rourke poses any defense, let alone ours, way more challenges than a Masoli at this point in his career. But we don't know. So, but he's right. They've got some, what did he say? Hogs or dogs over there? Is it hogs or dogs on that offensive? They got some hogs on that offensive line. It's hogs on that offensive line. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, they're a big group. And you're right though, because Jeremiah Masoli and Nathan Rourke split practice reps apparently yesterday. And I guess the question that I asked Coach Mason that we can discuss amongst ourselves is, does that change anything up whether you're preparing for Masoli or if you're preparing for Nathan Rourke?
You kind of prepare for whatever situation, but similar to our situation is whoever they're going to have back there for the most part has been in the league for a while and has a lot of tape out there. So, we got to prepare for both. It's just the smart thing to do. And whoever they decide to give the nod to, we'll be prepared for that.
That's a great stock answer, but if we were being honest, Nathan Rourke is head and shoulders with what he's able to do with his legs and his arm at this point in his career. He's just a more dangerous quarterback than Jeremiah Masoli. And that's nothing against Masoli, but that's just truly a fact that, hey, that's a good answer, but we know behind closed doors, the Rourke thing is way, I would say, heightened as opposed to a Masoli.
Well, putting on the BC Lions hat right now, and the Lions definitely want Rourke to get in there. They want to see him start to build some rapport with the offense, with the pieces that are around him and get going. But I go back, remember when Cody Fajardo injured the oblique right before the playoff game in practice, tweaked it, then went on and played on it? And speaking with someone who I respect a lot in the medical field, isn't a doctor, but still knows more than I do, which doesn't take a lot in the medical field. But the quote that he gave me at the time was, this is a Herculean effort when you're a quarterback to go out and play with an oblique injury, because he says it's similar to in baseball because so much of your core is involved in the throw and being mobile. So just throwing the football is tough, let alone having to dodge 300-pound people that are trying to take you down. So it takes a long time to get right. And when you aren't quite right, there's a tweak that could happen, and it's an inconsistent tweak. So again, I'm not a medical professional, but again, it kept Nathan Rourke out of last week's game. And again, if he can go ahead and play through that this week, and I don't know what percentage you need to be able to do that, that's a big thing for the BC Lions that I know that they would love to see. Do they want to risk it in week 3 of the season, or week 4, I guess, for us? I'm not sure.
2-2 is better than 1-3 if you're a Lions fan. And on that defense, and you have to know, and Charleston's mentioned this before when we've chatted with him, the lift it gives you when your stars on offense are playing well defensively, for you to go out there and do your job, making it a whole lot easier, that if something does happen, knowing, listen, we can drive right back down the field and score, we can get those points back. Or if something does happen, he said, but and then the falling off the cliff on the other side is when, there's a huge drop off from the starter to the backup. And now things are really getting out of reach. What that does to the defense as well. So yeah, 2-2 for the Lions after 4 games as opposed to 1-3. I think considering with the injury situation, they would probably take that all day long. So as a Rider fan, be interesting to see who runs out of the tunnel and is at center field. Is it going to be 11 or 12?
You counting on the kickoff again or what?
I think Mazzoli wears 11 and Rourke wears jersey number 12. But yeah, they had him dressed last week. I'm like, if Mazzoli gets hurt, is Rourke going in? Like, or was that just for show? I think it was for show. I think we got duped on that one. I think it was for show.
You think there's gamesmanship? There perhaps is. But you know what? The key word I think you just mentioned in the last 2 minutes that we haven't really talked about is run. And if I'm one person right now that is really excited when it comes to run, it's AJ Ouellette, right? Had a great game again, back-to-back weeks in Toronto and Hamilton, I would submit. And if the Riders' run game can get going, number one, you control the clock. Number two, you set up your passing game. And that's clearly what you could see in the last 2 weeks when the Riders had established a run game, thanks in part to their offensive line, who have been playing sensational, even though the Edmonton Elks statistically were better last week. You got to give a lot of credit to that run game for setting up the pass game. So
I'll take 10 seconds on this. Everything the Elks did last week to pump up their stats, including those points and the fake yards, was in the fourth quarter when the game was out of touch. And Montreal had every starter possible already headed back to the airport. That's when the Elks decided to mount their massive comeback before they ended up losing for real on the scoreboard and in the standings. I heard some people, I'm like, hold on a sec. When Davis Alexander in Montreal and Northrop's defense was playing well in the first three quarters, that was a totally different football game. But whatever PFF stats, if Edmonton graded out better, don't believe everything you read on the internet, Dave. Is that the grain of salt that we're talking about? All right. Let's see here. We got a busy show today. In just a couple of minutes, Shaq Evans, former Saskatchewan Roughrider receiver, is going to join us. I loved him as a rider. It's too bad he got bit by the injury bug, but when he was on, he was good. And just, man, he was one of those guys that I'm like, wow, health wise, if we got Charleston Hughes coming up after 4, allegedly with Charleston, you know this, Dave. Every day's an adventure. Try to get Charleston on the show. Things could be happening. Although we've texted him multiple times in the past 24 hours, we should be go 4:05. And then after 5 o'clock this afternoon, Chris Dingman, who is a 2-time Stanley Cup champion. Remember Dingman from his days as a Brandon Wheat King? Well, he's going to come on the show, and he's a hockey dad as well. A son that played for the Estevan Bruins and a son that plays for the Swift Current Broncos. I want to get his take. This whole NCAA thing. What if somebody comes knocking on Chris Dingman's door, the bag man from, let's say, Boston University or the Maine Black Bears or the University of North Dakota, saying, hey, we'd like for your son to come. They're so interesting now, what's going on in the world of junior hockey with all of this college stuff. And so it's going to be a busy show. Close practice tomorrow. All the secrets will be told afterwards on the Sports Cage because it's a cone of silence, like Get Smart in the old days. If you're too young for that reference, I don't know what to tell you other than Google it. But what does your gut tell you? Trevor Harris does or does not practice tomorrow?
Oh, there's a 50-50 shot is all I'm going to say, because again, what I do respect, and I'll tell you this, is that I do respect that the Saskatchewan Roughriders are one of many teams that show a lot of respect to their players and their athletes. And if they suspect that something isn't right, you heard Coach Mace talking about it yesterday, right? And the fact that he kind of had to dissuade Trevor from taking part in practice. And so I give credit where credit is due. Again, you don't mess around with head injuries with what we know in 2025. So again, I think that's why it's up in the air. And I did use the word concussion. That has not been mentioned as far as protocol or anything like that. That word has not been kicking around. It has been asked of Coach Mason. He hasn't used that word either, just so that everyone's aware.
All right. Thanks, Dave. The Sports Cage is for Regina Motor Products. The RMP summer offer is on now until August 31st. Get a $25 SOE gift card with the purchase of a vehicle health check and oil change. Visit our MP today. Time to take a break. And when we come back, we'll be joined by former Saskatchewan Roughrider Shaq Evans. This is the Sports Cage on the home of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, 620 CKRM. Have you played SaskTel Pick the Score? Who wins on Saturday between the Riders and the Lions? Text us your prediction along with your first and last name to 306-936-6262. You can win tickets to an upcoming Rider game and a $200 SaskTel gift card. It's Maz in for Barney. Thanks for being part of the show today. Hey, moms and dads, now that the kids are out of school, what are we going to do to entertain them for the next 2 weeks and 2 months? Mine are already asking what's for supper and what are we doing tomorrow. Grandma, if I text you later, please answer back quickly because I'm going to need to know what you're doing with the kids tomorrow, right? If you can be so lucky. Thanks for being part of the show today. Let's go out on the Western Pizza guest hotline. He played college football at Notre Dame for a year. Spent 3 years at UCLA from 2010 to 2013. He was drafted by the New York Jets in the 4th round of the 2014 draft. Spent time with the Jets, the Jaguars, the Patriots, and the Cowboys. And then he was a Saskatchewan Roughrider from 2018 until 2022. And he was a CFL All-Star in 2019. You can find him on Instagram at Shaq_Evans. Welcome to the Sports Cage, Shaq Evans. How are you? Oh, let's see. Do we got audio there? Close.
Oh, sorry, my mic was muted. Sorry.
No problem.
I'm good.
Not bad. So, where's home for you these days, Shaq?
Los Angeles, California.
Okay. Now, we were talking before you came on. When you were a rider, there was a lot of us that loved you. The injury bug at times had you. Can you tell the story after the NFL? How did you end up becoming a Saskatchewan Roughrider?
Yeah, I remember coming home after I got released by the Cowboys, and my agent told me that there was a workout for a CFL, the ones they do in the States in the off season. Yeah. It was in May 2017, and it was at this high school, and the field was terrible. I remember that it was horrible. And so I showed up and I did a few one-on-ones and ran a 40 and did a vertical. And Jeremy O'Day, who's the GM now, he was the head of scouting at the time, I think. And so he was the one evaluating me. And then after that, we stayed in contact, and they wanted me to come up actually in 2017, but I was still holding out for NFL offers. So I didn't come up. But as soon as January, I told them if I don't get signed this year, then next year, 2018, I'm with you guys, and that's what happened. And so I think January or February of 2018, I signed my contract with Saskatchewan.
We're chatting with Shaq Evans here on the Western Pizza guest hotline. All right, so you were in the NFL for a few years, and then you're trying out on a high school football field. That's probably a little bit of a shock from a football player. How did you handle that mentally and emotionally? Like, how did you, say, okay, if this is the next step, I'm going to take it?
Yeah, you just gotta understand, like, everybody has a different journey. Like, everybody's just not going to be the same. Like, everything happens for a reason. So you try not to get too down in the dumps. Like you said, it is a big drastic change from being in the NFL, and now you're working on a high school field with, guys that haven't played football in years or haven't even made it to the level you've made it to. So you got to tell yourself, just keep the goal. The goal is still the same. You want to be a professional athlete, and CFL is still professional. So I was like, I got a chance, so take advantage of it, and I did, and the rest is, history.
So when you show up at training camp in 2018, what was your first impressions, not only of Saskatchewan, but the team you were coming to?
Well, my impressions of Saskatchewan was that it was different. I'm coming from LA, and it's a big city, and Saskatchewan is a place with no tall buildings. Oh, hold on real quick. Hello.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Yeah.
There's no parking here, my friend.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to move in a second. I'm just doing a little phone call real quick, and I'll be out here in about a couple of minutes. Right. Yeah, I'll be out here soon.
All right.
Thank you.
I love this.
Sorry
This is
about
the
that.
beauty of live radio. Hey, we don't want to
Yeah.
get you a ticket because you know the
Yeah,
exchange
we're
rate.
good.
Canadian to American money. I don't know if we've got the budget to pay for that whole thing. You probably know full well what a Canadian paycheck and an American paycheck.
Exactly.
So you show up in 2018 to training camp. Who were your quarterbacks throwing you balls at camp in first time around in Saskatchewan?
Quarterbacks. Brandon Bridge, Zach Caleros.
Nice.
Dave Watford.
Dave
Marquise
Watford.
Williams, I believe.
Nice.
BJ Daniels. Yeah. So we had a few. We had a good number of quarterbacks when I first got there. It was like at least 5 or 6.
Training camps are short. You don't have a lot of time to make an impression. There's a lot of guys that come up here with a resume. They're great in college. Maybe they get a taste of the pros. And then you end up making the squad. What is it, just that same drive that you've always had that's helped you achieve? Or how did you do what is incredibly hard? They bring in 20 wide receivers. 4 or 5 are going to make it. So how did you separate yourself back then?
Oh man, it's crazy because the first week was not that great for me. Like the first week of training camp was not that great for me. First preseason game was okay, but it wasn't, anything too impressive. So, and I was dealing with a strained quad and a bruised AC joint. So I was like, my quad was in pain every single day. So I just, like, after that first week, I felt like I was more acclimated to the new rules and the new nuances of the game because, Canadian football is a little different than American football. So I felt a little more comfortable. And I told myself, like, look, dude, this is your last go-round. Like, if you don't make it here, then I don't know what you're going to do. So I was like, forget the pain, fight through it, and just go hard. And that's all I told myself, just go hard. And that's what I did. I started making plays, started standing out. And next thing I know, I didn't even play the second preseason game because I got a concussion, like a little mild concussion, like 3 days before the game, and I still made the squad. So I must have been doing really well that second week because I'm here.
And then first impressions, the new Mosaic Stadium, Rider Nation, the fan base, all of that. I mean, you come from UCLA. It's a storied franchise. You played for the Dallas Cowboys, rabid fans.
Yeah.
But Rider Nation is something of its own. A lot of us liked you from day one. I think there's a lot of us that still like you. Did you feel it instantly when you did get a chance to, in that first regular season game, and then come out of the tunnel in Regina?
Yeah. Like instantly, like, because we played Toronto. I remember we played against Toronto to open the season in 2018. And I was able to really take it all in and just, like, look around because I didn't even dress that game. Like, a lot of people probably don't remember or know. Like, I didn't even put on shoulder pads and helmet that game. So I was just on the sideline just looking around like, wow, this is crazy. Like, it's less people here. Obviously, they're not playing in front of, but I feel the energy of 90,000 people. Like, it was crazy. I just felt the passion and the love, like, that they really have for this team. And I was like, I'm so thankful and blessed to be, a part of this. And hopefully I can be a part of it for some years to come. And I was able to.
So in 2018, you finally get a chance to get on the field and you make your mark and you started feeling comfortable. For you, what was the biggest difference? Is it the field size, waggle? Like, where were you able to get your comfort zone to be like, all right, I think I can do well at this?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, like, other than the rules and the waggle, was just the conditioning. Like, it's such a fast-paced game because the field's so big and because the play clock is half the time of an NFL play clock, half the time of a college football play clock that I was used to playing with. So I think once I got, used to the pace and what kind of shape I had to be in, that's when I started to take off, because I started to really take off the second half of that 2018 season, and it carried on through the 2019 season. So I think I just needed to get comfortable with the conditioning, and once I did that, I was pretty good from there.
You mentioned you started in 2018. You mentioned Zach Caleros, and we all know what happened. Then Zach ends up getting hurt, and then Cody comes in, and then all of a sudden Cody, and it seems like you guys had a good connection. In 2019, you were a CFL West All-Star. You were one of the best in the league. Did you feel to be like, all right, from where you were, and then you come in, and now you're playing at such a high level, that you're like, all right, I always felt bad because the injury bug came around and bit you a few times. How hard was that to deal with? You're trying to establish yourself, and you're doing well, but then the injury setbacks to slow you down.
Nah, man, it was super difficult, mentally, emotionally, because like you say, I felt like I was getting ready to be one of the best for years to come. Like I felt like I was going to be on top for at least another 4 or 5 years. Like that's what I felt I had in me, because I knew the work I put in, I knew the talent I had, and I put it on display, in 2019. And so to come in 2021 and had a fractured leg, and then come back 2022. Like 2022 is when I really felt like myself again. Like I felt like, okay, I'm about to be an all-star again. And then to have the same thing happen on the other leg was just like super unfortunate. And it's just like, I know, like you think about it, I'm like, damn, I know I would still be playing, if it wasn't for, the injury bug. It's just, that's part of football. Like some people are, more fortunate than others to avoid, significant injuries, and some aren't. And I'm just one of the people that just wasn't able to avoid, injuries that, set you back a lot.
Charleston Hughes has mentioned on the show when we've interviewed him that when he played it, if he got hurt, he wouldn't tell anybody. He'd go deal with it on his own because he didn't want it. It's your job. He didn't want to give it up. Obviously, with yours, it was a little different. You couldn't hide. But if you were talking about quad injury, neck injury, things that you may stay quiet about because you're like, I'm trying to get a paycheck here and earn a job. When you look back on your time in Saskatchewan, what's one of the first feelings or thoughts that comes to your mind about Rider Nation?
Love, instantly, I felt the love from day one I was there. Fans always showed players love, showed the team love, showed the organization love, and I loved my time there. Like, it was the first place I could call home, as a professional. Like, that was the only place I spent, more than, 1 year at. Like, that I think about it, it's the only place I spent more than 1 year. So love is the first word that comes to mind when I think of my time in Saskatchewan.
You spend 5 years here. You have to assimilate a little bit. Did you ever drink Pilsner? Do you like Pilsner? Do you crave it from time to time? In the States, you can't. I mean, sooner or later along the way, somebody would have offered you one somewhere in a pub, a bar, a restaurant.
Yeah, I was definitely, in my time in SAS, I was definitely offered a few Pilsners, but I'm just not a beer guy. Like,
okay.
I just never... Right, even in college, you can ask any of my college teammates, like they can tell you they've never seen me drinking a beer, like ever. Like I can't. It's too harsh for me.
Nice. Oh, so what does Shaq Evans doing these days? What keeps you busy? Do you still keep up with the league a little bit? Do you watch when it's on the CBS Sports Network? Do you pay attention a little bit to what's happening in the CFL? Yeah,
right now I'm just coaching high school football. We're actually getting ready to start our summer camp this coming Monday. So that's what I've been doing to keep myself busy for a little while. And but the league, I haven't been following it too much because it's, for me, it's just kind of still hard to watch, because I feel like I should still be playing. So, I get it. I dibble and dabble in it, a little bit. So I watched a little bit of a couple games so far this year, but I haven't sat down and watched an entire game just yet, but I definitely keep up with the Riders, win-loss record at least. So, so yeah, that's. But I don't watch it a lot because, like I said, it's still hard to watch a little bit.
Hey, trust me, I get it. You're not the only one that sometimes can't watch Rider football. Your commitment was way bigger than mine. Now, you said you're coaching high school football in California.
Yeah.
And what's one of the famous schools? Is it Mater Dei is one of the powerhouses and something like that?
Yeah, Mater Dei.
So are you coaching against them? Are you part of that staff? Like, where is that? Because they're kind of the...
No.
well stocked, should we say, as far as a football program goes?
Yeah, they're definitely one of the powerhouses in this whole country, not just California. Like, they can probably beat anybody from anywhere. But no, I'm not there. So, we're in the school I'm at in a different division. So
okay.
I don't think we would ever play them. They're like in the top division. We're like in the second or third division. So, this is my first year. So I don't know all the divisions yet, but still learning. But I've been loving it, man. Coaching kids is definitely going to be something I'm going to be a part of my life, because it's just, even though I've been doing it for a short time, it's something I can tell is going to give me a lot of gratification, just giving back and, just seeing those kids and knowing that I was literally in their shoes, and just be able to give them that wisdom and that knowledge and that experience is just going to be fulfilling for me. So I'm really looking forward to building a future with that.
Shaq Evans is with us on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline. You went to UCLA, a very high-profile college program. Now with NIL in college sports, and I believe that was before your time, you've seen a lot of changes. Roster movement, the transfer portal, guys moving around for paychecks, not necessarily for football opportunities. What's your take? I always have thought the players should be paid something because the schools make a ton of money off them. That wasn't fair. But I don't know, since it's gone so much the other way, where do you come in on this? Does there need to be a balance between money and the actual football product?
Oh, definitely. I think it's kind of tainting and taking the purity away from college sports a little bit, with the amount of money these guys are getting paid, because once you give somebody money, you also give them power. So now these kids are having power over not only, the program, but they're having power over their coaches as well, because some of them are making more than the coach is making. So it's like we have to get that balance, because we have to still maintain that respect of the integrity of the game. Because like I said, giving them too much money is going to make people just give them too much power. I think, like you say, they should get paid something. Trust me, I wish I would get paid, you make millions of dollars off of our tax, but I definitely have to get out of the period.
All right. Shaq, thank you for doing this. I just want to put a little thought in your head. How would Shaq Evans have handled a $2 million NIL contract at age 18?
The thing is, I thought about that so many times. I'm like, I know it wouldn't have been good.
Oh, we maybe would have never seen you as part of Rider Nation. Shaq, thanks for doing this. Maybe we can do this again. Best of luck at spring football camp. Best of luck this fall when you guys kick off the season. And hey, Rider Nation is 3-0 on our way to an undefeated season and a Grey Cup, our fifth in our long storied history. And we appreciate your time. That's Shaq Evans on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline joining us. We're going to take a break. When we come back, hey, how about those Toronto Blue Jays? They will not go away. How they're doing it's incredible. And last night was one that, listen, if you miss a minute, you're going to miss a lot. We'll jump into that next. This is a Sports Cage on the home of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, 620 CKRM.
2 down. And a high fly ball to deep left center field. It's gone! Grand slam for George Springer. And that 2-run lead is 10-4 here in the 8th. I'm not sure sometimes.
Springer's grand slam in the 8th inning broke the game wide open. Eric Lauer held Cleveland scoreless until the 6th. Jays beat the Guardians yesterday in Cleveland, 10-6. Now today, Jays fans, remember in the offseason, when it was announced, the front office for the Jays, and a lot of people don't like them, whatever, they're doing what they do, they signed Max Scherzer. All right, great. Can't wait to see him. What are we, 70 some games in? Let's see, where the Jays are 42 and 36. So that's 48, 50, 70. We're 78 games in. Supposedly, in a little less than an hour's time, Max Scherzer, the 40-year-old, should be taking the mound for the Toronto Blue Jays against Cleveland for his first appearance of the season. Now, if they can get him going and he can stay healthy, I like what's happening. The Yankees are playing terrible baseball. They're 3-7 in their last 10. They're 45 and 34. The Jays are only 2.5 games back. That wild card, a lot is going on. This could be good. Jays, Cleveland, first pitch around 4:47. Western Canadian Baseball League tonight. The Red Sox are in Saskatoon to take on the Berries. First pitch at Cairns Field will go just after 7. And big news in the NHL today. The Evander Kane problem that was plaguing the Edmonton Oilers, according to Eric Francis, over these past couple of years has now been cured. Evander Kane traded to the Vancouver Canucks for a fourth-round draft pick. And that is your sports ticker for Reliance Heath Water Rentals right here on the Sports Cage. What's more important if you're an athlete, winning or money? If you have a lot of money, but you haven't won a lot, is that important? Let's say you've won, but you didn't make a lot of money doing it. Is that important? It's our Twitter poll question today. So Joe Pavelski played 1,500 regular season games. Regular season and playoff games, but he never won a Stanley Cup. If you were a player, and this is the Connor McDavid scenario, he's 10 years in, no cup. He's Dan Marino. He's Joe Pavelski. If you were a player, would you play a season for free if you were guaranteed to win the cup? Yes or no? That's our poll question today. Our guest on the Sports Cage just after 5 o'clock doesn't have to worry about that. He won 2 Stanley Cups. We'll be chatting with Chris Dingman on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline. Chris not only was a Brandon Wheat King alum, I think his second or third year, had 40 goals, 83 points, 201 PIMs. Hockey was different back then. He won a cup with the Colorado Avalanche, and he won a cup with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Be interesting to get his take on what he thought of the final. And he's from Edmonton and lives in Edmonton to get his take on this McDavid situation. It's Maz here, along with half of the Double C's, Colson Schultz, working the old Sports Cage from the Century Studios. We are trying to track down Charleston Hughes. When we can get him, he's I've said this before, he's one of our favorite guests. Sometimes just tracking him down is a bit of a challenge. There's a time change. He lives in Texas. Sometimes there's a calendar issue of the certain days. So we're working behind the scenes, multiple text messages and calls. Charleston Hughes, come on. We'll get his take on what he thought last week in the CFL. And then there's the Luke Wilson stuff. Now, Luke Wilson over the weekend said that he wasn't necessarily a fan of the product on the field in the CFL these days. And he alluded to the Ryder Argonaut game not being awesome last week. There were 300 yards and penalties. I agree. That wasn't awesome. It was tough to watch. And he had a laundry list of things. He wasn't all wrong. His approach probably was. And I think that's what got a lot of people mad. It was just the approach. And a lot of people are like, who are you? Well, he played in the NFL and he won a Super Bowl. So I think he's football qualified. I think for a lot of people, and a couple of text messages that I traded with people, they're mad because he was never a CFL guy. So who is he to say about the CFL? He's just an NFL guy. But I think if you play professional football, you're allowed. And he is Canadian. He went to Rice University. But then, Colson, don't you love this? When guys go all in on social media and then they do the double down. Well, the other day he doubled down. Where is it? This is what he had to say. He put this out on social media yesterday. Battle number 2. Huge victory against the numpties / the old guard. A simple, well-thought-out tweet has caused utter destruction. They are weakened. Their backs are against the wall. They are scared. They launched a counterattack. They came for me. They have failed. Only ball talk until next week. Now, long live the CFL.
Oh, he's entertaining. I will say that.
No good movie or no good story doesn't not have a bad guy. You need the white hat to the black hat. Can't have everybody all saying the same thing. That doesn't make for interesting anything. I think now to the point is, when I first read this, just with the age and who he is and having watched him on TSN before, 75% he knows what he's doing because he's trolling. And he knows that he can get people. He knows that he can get people fired up just for the thought of it. And I will go back to this. I think people didn't like the approach, and they also don't like the fact that he's never played in the CFL. And they're like, you can't have an opinion on this game because you never played. Well, look at you and I. Have you and I ever suited up in this? No. And we love to try and give our opinion and hope that God, somebody will listen to it. He's won a Super Bowl.
I never made it off the bench in high school, yet I'm running a sports show. Like, there's other people that have played more football than I have that can talk a little bit more about it. So I agree. He's qualified to talk football. Sure, he doesn't necessarily have the same upbringing as some of us who were inundated with the CFL the whole time, right? But you need those fresh eyes to get different perspectives on things, to say, oh, this is how we've always done it. Well, it's like, okay, but there's 2 or 3 steps you can cut out to make your life easier. Just coming at it with a new perspective, right?
I bet you behind the scenes, keep in mind, if this is new, it's Wednesday on the SportsCage and everything new. So we had Luke Wilson on the show, what was it, a month ago from Saskatoon for the Dog's Breakfast, right? The day before the Dog's Breakfast.
Let me check the archives.
Yeah, he was on with me and Dave. Great guy, great interview, personable. I bet you we'll never ever get to see his private cell phone. There are probably league officials, even Stu Johnston, CFL commissioner, that have probably reached out to be like, hey, Luke, I saw what you said. If you ever have time to discuss some ideas or thoughts that you have, let's have coffee or set up a Teams call or a Zoom, because they will want to hear what he has to say without the bluster and the, trolling like your cheap heat wrestling fans, where you're trolling the building.
Yeah. April 30th was when we had him on. So yeah. Just a few months ago.
And he's quite knowledgeable.
Yeah.
It was the delivery and how he did it, and the fact that he never played in the CFL that has so many people so mad. What he said, there's a lot of truth there.
Yep.
Friday, 307 yards in penalties. That's not a lot of flow.
Yeah, and that's any sport. If you've got 300 yards in penalties, or what is it in hockey, 300 penalty minutes, that'd be obnoxious. But
okay, look at the first 2 games of the Stanley Cup Finals. They were good, but everybody was melting down because the officiating was so bad. In the first period, they were calling
everything,
10 penalties. Yeah, they were calling everything.
Yeah,
and it was killing people.
And then they would put the whistles away, which you would expect, but not after. Okay, not in those first few games, but it was very inconsistent. Which you're like, okay, if it's bad officiating, it's bad officiating. We'll play to that, but at least be consistent. I've heard Luke say that so many times.
Yeah, it's too bad sometimes in the CFL that they won't put the whistles away in the second half, and they'll just keep going down that path. We are trying to get Charleston Hughes on. This is his time slot. I'm like, are you ready to go for tomorrow? He's, I'm ready to go. We got lots to talk about. Love to get his take. Charleston played in the league a long time. He draws a pension in Canadian funds, as he told us, from the Canadian Football League. He has thoughts, but I want to ask him, because on the weekend when the Stamps lost to Ottawa, and that was an ugly game, not only weather-wise, it didn't turn well. The Stamps gave up 240 yards rushing, and they had 5 turnovers on offense. Oh. I want to know if Charleston Hughes, in his time in the CFL, was ever involved in a game where they gave up 240 yards rushing, and then what the locker room was like after that for the defense. What was said, what's not said. Like, is a young Micah Johnson and a Jawan Simpson, are they flipping tables? Are we punching lockers? Like, what's happening? Because that was not. That would 300 yards passing is one thing. All right, that happens. It's a passing league.
Yeah.
240 rushing getting hung on you, that's a whole different story.
Yeah, even 400 passing yards for the Riders in the first game, we're like, okay, that's a lot. but we won the game. We saw what you were doing. It makes sense. 200, almost 250 rushing yards. You're kind of like, okay.
Yeah, that's a lot.
No, what was the average for the rushers? That's what I want to know for that game.
If you missed hour one, Voice of the Riders Dave Thomas was on with us. Another injury update. It was a long list from practice today. No Trevor Harris. Did not participate. Wasn't on the field. Was not there. Coach May said he may practice tomorrow. I don't think so. And I mean, if he doesn't practice tomorrow, he's not playing. Even if he does practice tomorrow, is that enough? Like, it is. You are Trevor Harris, but is that enough time? Mitch Picton was in and out for a while. We got guys. Deshaun Mims was lining up where Picton was. Just it's a lot. It's early. The injury list. It's piling up. So if there is no Trevor Harris, that would mean that we would go to backup quarterback Jake Mayer, and Dave Thomas had a chance to catch up with Jake after practice and get his thoughts.
Well, Jake, second day in a row taking first team reps with Trevor Harris not on the practice field. Does that change your approach at all?
It really hasn't. I think the last 3 weeks have been pretty much the same status quo. Yeah, you get in there and get a few more reps because that's what your team is asking you to do. And it's business as usual for me in the situation I'm in.
Jake, obviously you've had a different vantage point for games thus far this season. Does that make you digest or watch film differently when you're not playing?
Well, you learn a lot from Trevor, that's for damn sure. Like the way he approaches it, the way he prepares, his reasoning for things, and the decision-making aspect of the game. So I've been soaking that up as much as possible. And then when you get out on the practice field, you try to apply whatever you've learned. I mean, I would say all four of the quarterbacks, I mean, we're here, all morning, all night, talking the same language, talking about the same things. So we're all on the same page in terms of what we're trying to do with the offense. So that's been good.
So Jake, if you do go in with Jake Mayer trying to be Trevor Harris, or do you become Jake Mayer trying to do what Trevor Harris does?
I think I'm still Jake Mayer, and I think I'm trying to be a better version of Jake Mayer than that's been in the past. But I think that's everybody. I think everybody would say that. But I know for damn sure that everybody in this organization I've come across, including Trevor, has made me a better individual myself. So, if I get the opportunity, then you'll get a Jake Mayer that is improved and hopefully puts his best foot forward for his team.
Jake, obviously when it comes to cadence and how you are in the huddle and so on and so forth, do you need to replicate what Trevor Harris does?
There's little things in the offense that are the same no matter who's in there for us. Handful of similarities, little intricacies for sure. But every quarterback's different. When you're in there, it's your show, and it's time for you to go play.
Obviously, at this point, it isn't defined who's going to start on Saturday, but what would it mean to you to get the start?
Oh, man. I love it here. There hasn't been a day that's gone by here where I'm not grateful and I'm not excited. It's a breath of fresh air for me personally. And just watching the team compete for the last 3 weeks and feeling like, to be a part of that has been really, really cool. And so if I can, if I have the opportunity to have that, then man, that'd be really, really special.
Now, you did mention earlier that playing here has made you better. How so?
Oh, man. It's helped with my preparation. I've had positive influences from coaches, from teammates. And I think, when you go from one place to the next and you kind of start over a little bit, like you come across more gratitude, just thankful to be a part of the league still and be a part of an organization that believes in you. And so that's definitely a level of growth that comes with that.
So I guess finally, if your number is called on Saturday, how prepared are you?
Oh, I'm prepared. Yeah, I got another day tomorrow to get right and focus on some red zone stuff, some situational stuff, and then after that, I'll feel really good.
Jake Mayer could be the starting quarterback on Saturday when the Riders host the BC Lions. If you're Jake Mayer, when you're the backup quarterback, this is how it's going to come about. Somebody's sick or somebody's hurt, and you're going to have to make the most of your opportunity. He already has been a starter in this league. He has a lot to prove. He's on a 1-year contract. There's a lot of us pulling for Jake Mayer to have a great game on Saturday. I'm not the only one, right, Colson?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's Saskatchewan. There's always somebody pulling for the second string quarterback. Like, that's just the way it is here. But yeah, sure. Like you said, Jake's got he's got starting experience. As he said, like, just gleaning stuff from Trevor. He's learning stuff, right? Like, I think anybody could learn anything from Trevor Harris. He just seems like that really knowledgeable guy to share stuff with you, let alone another quarterback about the quarterback position. So yeah, no, if we do see Jake, I'm excited with the potential of what we'll see, because I'm not expecting what we saw in Calgary last year. Maybe on the first drive, knocking the rust off, but
yeah, I don't think so either. I think the system that he's in here now, there's enough around him to protect him. He does have some weapons. He's got a good running game and an offensive line to lean on, that Mueller is going to call what will enhance Jake's skill set. I don't see a drop off. Now, Trevor's got more years experience. He's got all that, but he's more than qualified. I think Mayer throws a better deep ball. Like, as far as a touch passer goes, he throws a good deep ball, because there were times to be like, there was shades of, when Mayer was on in Calgary, you could tell why that Huffnagel and Dickinson moved on from Bo Levi Mitchell, because you could see shades of it. It just, near the end, you just didn't see enough of it. And there was not enough of a team around him to fall apart. But when it was working, it was good. And I think a lot of people, I don't have the same feeling as a Rider fan if we are going to the backup quarterback that we have in years past, right? Because I'm like, he's a 1B.
Yeah.
If Harris is 1A, this is 1B. It's not a 2C situation.
Yeah, it's not the same situation that like BC was in between Nathan Rourke and Vernon Adams. Like, we're not going to compare Jake Mayer to what Trevor Harris has done. But like you said, he's still not a untested, some kid we picked up from a college, right, where you have no idea what you're going to get. We've seen Jake Mayer. We know what he can do on his best days, and we know what's going to happen on his worst days. So we know what we're getting, and optimistically, that's a good thing.
I always hated when a guy would come in and then they'd modify the playbook and be like, no, we're only doing this, or we're only handing off. And like, no, like, then we don't have the right guy. Like, it's guns blazing all the time, because if Nathan Rourke does play on Saturday, and I think he does, like Darian said, on Monday, he'll probably shoot him up, with painkiller to play, because he's a competitor. BC can't be 1-3. 2-2 is better than 1-3, because they need to keep pace. I don't think Winnipeg's slowing down anytime soon. And if the Bombers beat the Eskimos or the Elks tomorrow night, they're a game, because they started with the bye, so they would be 3-0 potentially. Riders could be 4-0. Like, it's this Western Division dogfight that you can't lose a game.
Yep.
And BC at 2-2 is better than staring down the barrel at 1-3. And you would just hope that the Elks keep on losing. But you never know. But I don't think Winnipeg's losing at home tomorrow to Edmonton. I can't see it.
Weirder things have happened, so I'm leaving that out there. But yeah, I agree with you. It would be a really interesting game, I would imagine, if it did happen. But yeah, which, talking quick about Calgary there, I found the answer to my question. The running backs averaged 9.6 and 9.1 yards per carry for Ottawa. Like, averaging a first down as a running back, you feel pretty good.
Okay, so
that was a rough game.
Rider injury report. Sam Emelis didn't practice. That foot. Colson, the thing about a foot injury, it can nag, and it can be one of those things that just never goes away. Trevor Harris, they're saying head and illness, did not practice. Tommy Neal, no. Kozienieka. Malik Straker, thigh, did not practice. He's a special teams demon, and he's one of those Canadian backup linebackers. With Mitch Picton going in and out of practice, but then you had Deshaun Mims taking his spot. Let's say if Picton weren't be able to go, then the Riders are running thin at Canadian receiver. And they're, and Tavon Campbell, limited. Didn't practice yesterday, limited today, hopefully trending like he'll practice tomorrow. To do that once again, he's a Canadian, and you need to. So does that mean that they take a Dalkey and maybe move him over if Exume has to start? Like, you're doing a lot of shuffling.
Yeah, doing a lot of shuffling. But what was it? When did we have Justin Dunk on? It was like last week, I think. But he pointed out, I think it was week 2, the Riders started 8 Canadians. So yeah, we are getting thin, but we've got a lot of Canadians that can play. So push comes to shove, I think we'll be fine. We're definitely not in an Ottawa situation where you're having to list your starting running back as a backup and then play him half the snaps. So I don't think we'll be in that territory anytime soon. But yeah, still getting thin.
Rider Foundation 50/50. There's a great chance to win an early bird prize before every game. The Cavendish Beach Music Festival in Prince Edward Island is the prize that you can win this week. Flights to Charlottetown, 4 nights hotel, car rental, 2 VIP 3-day passes to see Shania Twain, Tyler Hubbard, and Lainey Wilson. That'd be good. Or, since the kids are out of school and they're already bored, Colson, they've been out of school for an hour for summer. How are they bored?
Attention spans aren't what they used to be.
You could take $76.50 cash. That's 2 trips to 7-Eleven with the price of Slurpees these days. Entry deadline is tomorrow at 5, and you can buy those tickets at riders5050.ca. All right, Dave had a chance to catch up with DeMarcus Fields. I thought he was outstanding last week in the win. He was one of the better riders on the field in Toronto, and Dave and DeMarcus had a chance to chat after practice.
Take me through the season so far. 3-0 is the main numbers, but what have you seen from your team and your defense so far?
We are 3-0, but we have a lot of areas that we need to get better in to be more efficient. I feel like we are just growing as a team, and we haven't showcased our best game yet.
A lot of talk was about continuity in the offseason, but there still are some new pieces in the secondary. How has coming together gone so far?
Just building relationships and figuring out each other's character and what they like and what they don't like. And so it's going to be a learning process. And, we just started, but I think we're heading in the right direction.
You're accustomed to the noise here at Mosaic Stadium, but how much more difficult is it when you can't verbally communicate the way you're talking about?
I love Mosaic Stadium and I love the crowd. So whenever they're loud, it's effective for us. So usually, if we can't communicate across the board, is mostly hand signals or anything to figure out. And that's why I say that we need to know each other and we need to build a closer bond, because when it comes to that, we should already know what we're running.
Luke Mullender pointed out to me in Toronto last week, he said, look at 22 and how much more physical he is this year. Do you feel that? Is that a proper assessment?
Yes, just being physical, because I can be able to play faster and I can be in spots quicker. So just learning the game and getting a year under my belt, it just helps me to play faster, and just being physical is just a part of the defense. So that's why I just try to showcase.
Having that year under your belt, how has that enabled you to grow as an athlete as well as a player within the system of the Saskatchewan Roughriders defense?
Just that year giving me to learn the rules, to learn the spacing, to learn the route concepts. It helped me out a lot, and I'm happy to be over here, and I'm happy to be playing efficient, and I want to play better.
Sometimes you'll hear athletes say, when I'm comfortable, things really slow down. Is that true?
Most definitely. Once you're comfortable and you know what's going on, everything kind of slows down, and you get a more feel for the game.
BC comes in, a team that you're familiar with, having faced them in the playoffs last year, not to mention some pretty epic battles along the way. What did they pose to you with a very athletic receiving group?
They've always been good, and with a good quarterback too as well. They're going to bring their best, and we're going to bring our best, and I'm happy to showcase what we could do.
Their quarterback is in a state of flux, kind of like the Saskatchewan Roughriders quarterback. Does that change how you prepare in any way?
No, it's just the next guy up, and we got whoever back, if it's Jake or Trevor, so it doesn't matter. We got their back, and the defense, we're going to need to stand tall, and we're going to need to even play better this week. DeMarcus,
appreciate your time. Good luck this week.
Appreciate it.
DeMarcus Fields, he was all over. There wasn't a play that he wasn't in on, it seemed, last week in Toronto. Like, he was in on everything. If he didn't make the tackle, he was the second guy in. Or he was breaking up pass plays, but he was everywhere. And I was like, he's rolling Milligan right now. He's stealing Milligan's spotlight. So we've been waiting for Charleston Hughes. I just saw my phone ding. I think he's ready to go now. So we're going to take a break, and we come back. We're going to talk CFL. Lots happening. Want to get his take. As always, he's one of our favorite guests here on the show, and he's always unpredictable. All right, let's do that. Stand by. Lots coming up on the show, including two-time Stanley Cup champion Chris Dingman just after 5 o'clock, and Charleston Hughes. We'll do that next. This is the Sports Cage. We're streaming on YouTube and on X at SportsCage, and we're on the home of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, 620 CKRM. My clutch performer, the Blue Jay George Springer, hitting a grand slam last night, 8th inning. Jays beat the Cleveland Guardians. Oh, there it is right there. 10-6. Max Scherzer. 40-year-old Max Scherzer set to take the mound this afternoon. Cleveland and Toronto here in about 10 minutes' time. Would be the first appearance this year. That's your clutch performer, Nick Service in Emerald Park. The Sports Cage is for Regina Motor Products. The RMP summer offer is on until August 31st. Get a $25 SOE gift card with the purchase of a vehicle health check and oil change package. Visit RMP today. Let's go out on the Western Pizza guest hotline. We're going to come up with a theme song. It's called Better Late Than Never, and it's going to be sung by Charleston Hughes. Maybe we can get like the Weekend or something to do maybe a little breakdown or a little rap in the middle or something like that. We can get like a collab going. How you do? Is that a wrestling belt behind you? Is that a wrestling belt? Oh, nice.
Fight Club from Saskatchewan, man.
Nice. Charleston Hughes joins us on the Western Pizza Get Hot. There's so much to talk about. But first, let's go back to your playing days. Because on the weekend, the Stamps lost to Ottawa. They had 5 turnovers, but that defense gave up 240 yards rushing. What's the locker room like, or that defensive meeting like, when you, a Juwan Simpson, a young Micah Johnson, if someone hangs 240 on you, what's it like after the game for you in the defense?
It's tough, man. I mean, it's tough in that locker room because you try not to point fingers and you try not to blame people. But you got to kind of you got to go back to the basics, man, and figure it out. Whether it was the coaching staff, they got to figure it out. Whether it was the players on blown assignments, they got to figure it out. Like, somebody, has to get better at their position, I would say.
I said to Colson,
shared blame.
Okay. Yeah, it was the DB's fault because they didn't tackle when they got to the second level. It's one thing to give up 300 yards passing, but 240 rushing. Ooh, that's a lot.
That's a lot. That. Well, you talk about Luke Wilson going out there and saying bad football. Now, that's bad football.
Yes. Okay. So I'm glad you brought up Luke Wilson because he decided to pick on the Argo Rider game, which, Charleston, I thought was the best game of the weekend. There were some duds, and he was picking on that. Your initial thoughts when you see Luke Wilson blow up Twitter, because he's a master troll if you haven't figured it out, and he did a beautiful job.
He's exactly what you want on the TSN side. That's how I look at it. And he's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. He's not a CFL guy. He's an NFL guy. He might be Canadian, but he's a CFL. He's an NFL guy. So the thing is, what he's supposed to do? He's supposed to come in, start some controversy, draw some attention to the CF, and be himself. And that's the one thing that TSN, I really think they just dropped the ball on, is just finding cookie-cutter guys who are going to follow what the producers say and keep a clean image and don't talk bad and try to smile and say all the right things when they're not being themselves. They're not saying, what they truly feel and think. And I think that's what you see out of this guy, is he's saying what he truly feels and thinks. And, there are people who think like that about the CFL and think like that about football games. Like, that was a terrible game. I mean, me personally, I don't think it was a terrible game. I think it was action-packed. I think it was a lot of swings in the game, that's what you want. You want swing action football. But I think he was thinking from a player's standpoint where it was a terrible called game on the coach's standpoint. And there was terrible controlled game on the coach's standpoint. So that was more or less, he's speaking from a player's point of view, which a lot of people won't understand that. So the thing is I think he just enlightened a lot of people about, football, basically.
There were over 20 penalties for 307 yards. That's tough. As a player, that's got to be frustrating for you because there's no flow. Like every whistle, there was a flag. That's bad. That's bad football.
That's bad football. But that's what I mean. From a player standpoint, that's terrible football. Well, from a coach's standpoint, that's terrible football because it's undisciplined. It shows I got no control over my team. It shows that, I got the wrong players in the game who have zero composure, who can't, play the game the way it's supposed to be played, within the rules of the game. That's the part that's kind of a downfall about, he's kind of right. That is bad football.
Now, in your playing days, the coaches that you had, and you had some good ones, if that was getting out of hand, would they have just, they don't care about your salary or your status? Would you have been sat down to be like, listen, man, I can't trust you. Take a seat on the bench?
Man, back in my day, man, it was blood, sweat, and tears, and you were afraid to make a mistake. If you made a mistake, you're getting pulled out of the game, and you might not see the field anymore. So those are the kind of high-tension, locker rooms I've been a part of where everybody's trying to do everything 100% right to make sure they always in the game. Now I think, things have lightened up quite a bit. It's not blood, sweat, and tears no more. It's milk, Pampers, and wine in the whole entire game. And, finger pointing, and players are blaming, this is why I can't do what I need to do. And there's no accountability, really. So the thing is players aren't being held accountable no more. You got to kind of tread water lightly with these guys and not push them too hard. And it's just, I don't know, man. It's strange right now, the way you have to coach players.
The hard part, Charleston, is they still look like monsters, a lot of these guys. They're specimens, but how can they be so weak if you guys were so hardened and so tough when you played, because you had to be? What happened that it's gotten, would you use the word soft, if there is no accountability and discipline on both sides?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a lot that plays into it, and the game has changed, in those years, over a 10, 14-year span. The game's different. It's not the same it used to be. So when it comes to like players and coaches and coaching styles, like I think all the gridiron, hard-nosed football coaches just aren't there anymore. And they're not coaching that gridiron, hard-nosed football type play. It's more guys need rest, guys need, time off. We got to save guys' legs. Let's give him a chance. Let's just give this guy a chance and see if he can do something. It's not, you got to earn it to play. You have to wait your turn to play. It just don't operate like that anymore. It's just about who can we get in there for the cheapest to get the best shot.
I loved after the game Ryan Dinwiddie's press conference. He was so mad. He was talking about cutting guys. He had some lineman that showed up 280 pounds to training camp. Obviously, that was not the ideal weight. But it was real, and I loved it. I'm like, finally, somebody is saying something here with some real emotion. This wasn't just me like, oh, I better measure what I say, because then I'm going to have to go apologize in 18 hours because I was being honest.
Yeah, man, I definitely heard that, and Dinwiddie did get pretty fired up there. He is one of those guys who came from that same era about hard-nosed football, and I've been in the same locker room with Dinwiddie before, and I'm pretty familiar with what kind of guy he is. And, I think he said all the right things. You got to send a message. You got to let your team know that, you got to play some good football to be on this team. And as a Grey Cup, winning team like they've been over the last few years, they got a reputation to uphold at this point, right?
They do. And on the Luke Wilson front, I think what he said, he wasn't all wrong. There was a lot of truth. I think there was two things. People didn't like how the message was delivered on social media. And they also don't like the fact that he'd never played in the CFL. He's an NFL guy, like you said. That somehow only if you play in the CFL, you can have an opinion on, well, I've never played. I have an opinion. I love the league. I love the game, just like you do. You have a Canadian dollar pension from the CFL. We know that. So I agree. He put out another tweet yesterday saying, mission accomplished last week. I got the trolls. I got everybody fired up. They tried to come at me and I won. I would love to, if he would ever, and we reached out to him to get him on the show. To take, do you want to come on and back it up? If this plays out into a real discussion to be like, all right, how we could make the game better. We saw some good things last week. We saw some not so good things last week. Montreal looked, the score was 38-28 over the Elks. The game was never that close. Davis Alexander, that Noel Thorpe defense, they had Trey Ford so confused in the first half, he didn't know what to do.
Montreal, hands down, the best team in the league right now.
Okay.
Ain't no ifs, ands, buts about it. They are the strongest team in the league right now, who look like they got it together. They're being coached well. The players are very confident, very aggressive about, you know, the style play that they're when they're going to attack on the field. I mean, they're playing really, really, really good football.
Tomorrow night, Edmonton's in Winnipeg to kick off week 4. There's going to be 30-some thousand people there screaming, drunk on rum from the rum hut, going mental. You've played in Winnipeg. It's a hard place to play. Zach Collaros looked good last week against BC, did just enough, getting that chemistry going with the receivers again, they just look like a savvy veteran football team, not doing too much, just what they need to do.
Yeah, man. I mean, Winnipeg's always been that. They're a savvy team. They're a veteran team in the league. I'm pretty sure they're probably pushing to be one of the oldest teams in the league right now, with the type of roster they got. So players know how to win. They know how to approach every game. And they got a bunch of rookies around them that, you know, they got to follow suit with all those leaders that they got on their team. Willie J's doing Willie J stuff, knocking balls down left and right, still getting to the quarterback, still making an impact. I mean, like you said, Collaros is making some good throws out there. You could tell he's comfortable doing Collaros things, scrambling around, throwing deep balls.
If Hamilton loses to Montreal on Friday, and there's a good chance that they could, that's another bad start for the Ticats. They do this year after year. Sooner or later, Charleston, it's going to be too hard to recover, isn't it?
It seems like it, but man, it's the East, man. Let's be real. Yeah. Like you got to do is get 7-8 wins, and you're gonna make the playoffs. Let's keep it real now. It ain't like you gotta have a crazy good record to make it to the playoffs over there.
They're like the kids getting the participation medal for coming in 9th place. Toronto, Ottawa, who knows? I hope Toronto can get on the winning track. BC at Sask on Saturday. We don't know who's starting for the Lions. Could be Rourke. Trevor Harris has been out for the past couple days. Hasn't practiced. It could be Jake Mayer. From what we thought going into this week, this could be a totally different looking football game on Saturday when it gets played out. If you're the BC Lions, 2-2 is a whole lot better than 1-3. You need to win this football game on the road.
They got to win this football game on the road, man. It's an important game, especially for Saskatchewan, man. I mean, they're off to a good start. Not a strong start, but a good start. And the thing is they got to keep getting better and better each game and figuring out ways to win games. Don't matter how they win, it could be ugly and it could be a nasty looking game, and a touchdown at the end of the game to win is, glorious. And it gives you momentum going into the next game. But you still got a long way to go before you feel confident going into games to win.
We had one of your former Saskatchewan Roughrider teammates on in hour number 1 in Shaq Evans, and I'd said to him as a fan, it was too bad that the injury bug got him, because when he was on, he was so good. And he talked about how he felt he could have been a dominant player in the league for a long time. Did you see that from him in your time with the Riders when he was here?
I did, man. He was impressive, man. He was definitely an impressive player. He was a deep threat. He was a great route runner. It really wasn't a lot that he couldn't do, man. It was just the injury bug was really the one thing that got the best of him, every time. And, I would try to say little things here and there to try to help him, on the ankle and foot placement. And it's a tough situation, man, when you have that injury bug chasing you. I had it chasing me for a long time, and I never made it through a full season myself. So the thing is you got to do whatever you can in the off season to make sure that you're ready to play an entire season, and it's hard.
Can we get your quote again? It was milk. Was it milk, cookies, and Pampers, or what's the 3-word quote to wrap this interview?
Milk, Pampers, and whining. It's all you see from players. Just look at the camera, man. All you're going to see is just a bunch of whining and guys just not caring, putting their all into it. Milk,
Pampers, and whining. We could probably apply that to this show as well. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Charleston Hughes at Saskatchewan. You follow on social media. You can find him. He's great. We always appreciate this. We'll have you back in a couple weeks to chat a little football. Have a great evening, sir. And here's to a great weekend of CFL football.
Thanks. I hope y'all get on here. Get him on here.
Happy pre-Canada Day, my friend. Enjoy your Canadian dollar pension. Don't spend it all in place.
It works off for you guys. Don't worry.
It's Charleston Hughes on the Western Pizza Guest Hotline. All right, we got to take a break. We had a sports ticker coming up. We got NHL news today. If you love the Oilers but hate some of the players on the roster, one of the biggest headaches is gone. More on that next. This is the Sports Cage on 620 CKRM. Jays taking on Cleveland this afternoon. Max Scherzer, 40-year-old, first appearance for the Jays this year. Jays looking to continue that winning streak. They won 10-6 last night. Western Canadian Baseball League, Regina Red Sox are in Saskatoon to take on the Berries. 7 o'clock first pitch at Cairns Field. And the Edmonton Oilers have traded Evander Kane to the Canucks for a 4th-round pick. By doing so, the Oilers have freed up $5.15 million in cap space for next season. And that's your sports ticker for Extreme Hockey and Sport. The big story coming from Mosaic earlier today is that Trevor Harris did not practice for the Saskatchewan Roughriders for the 2nd day in a row, which means Jake Maier could be the starting quarterback on Saturday against the BC Lions. We'll find out tomorrow. Trevor Harris may practice, according to Corey Mace. If not, Maier says he's ready and ready to roll if called upon to take on the Lions. This is the Sports Cage on the home of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, 620 CKRM. It's Maz in for Barney today. He'll be back in tomorrow. As always, if you want to be part of the show, Prairie Land Rentals text line is 306-936-6262. From skid steers to tents to power tools, anything you need to rent for that spring or summer job, visit Prairie Land Rentals. You can deal with the owner at 600 Albert Street. If you've missed any part of the show, we had former Saskatchewan Roughrider Shaq Evans on in hour number 1. And then we just chatted with Charleston Hughes. You can always go back and catch the podcast on demand. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or they're all neatly right there for you at sportscage.com. All right, it's time to go out on the Western Pizza Hotline. Our next guest played for the Brandon Wheat Kings from 1992 to 1996. In 94-95, how about this? 40 goals, 83 points, 201 penalty minutes. You don't see that anymore. He was drafted in the first round by the Calgary Flames back in 1994, and he went on to play for the Flames, the Avalanche, the Hurricanes, and the Lightning, and he won 2 Stanley Cups in 2001 with Colorado, and then Tampa Bay in 2004. He's hilarious on Twitter, at DingDish. Let's say hello to Chris Dingman. Chris, how are you? Welcome to the Sports Cage. Thanks for doing this. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Sorry for coughing there, but I just got back from vacation, which consisted of a lot of hiking with my wife and some golf with my boys. And the hiking was pretty aggressive. It was like 2.5 kilometers uphill, so it didn't really feel like a vacation. My lungs were burning, and you know that sensation you have where you cough a lot. So I had that, and I'm surprised anybody from Regina actually wanted me on their show, because we got in a brawl back then. It was about 92-ish, 93 in the playoffs. It was might have been game 3. It was pretty bad. It was a bench clearing brawl, and I may or may not have went in the stands. Well, I did. Followed my coach, and we each got one game, and Yeah, I've seen clips of it. I've never seen the entire thing, but a funny story about it actually is that, back then the first guy off the bench got suspended. Everyone else was good, and there was a line brawl at the end of the game, and me and this other guy, Colin Kluche, hopped over, and our coach horse collared us and had us by the back of the jersey. You're not going anywhere. And then one of their guys, was a Czech guy, Petruik, something like that. He hopped on the ice. He was like, "See you later." So yeah, went and grabbed a couple guys. Well, more than a couple, and might have gone a little aggressive. My temper got the best of me in that one. But I was taking my younger boy to a tournament in Winnipeg, and we stopped in Brandon. This was back when Darren Ritchie was the general manager, and Rich was my line mate the year I scored 40. He had like 62, and Marty Murray had 55, and I had 30 majors, so no one really touched him. But so I grabbed his guy, and I grabbed Marty's guy, and they were pounding them. But anyway, so we're in the office, and he's telling the story to my younger boy. Your dad was a little crazy back in the day. You got in some brawls or whatever. And he's like, yeah, whatever. And so anyways, Rick Dillabo, who Dilly's worked there for, I don't know how many years. Dilly looks like he's 40, and I don't even know how old he is, but he's an awesome guy. I don't think he's aged in 20 years, but he comes flying out of the office, and he's like, yeah, we got in this brawl. He's saying, yeah, we got in this brawl in Regina. And Dilly comes flying out of the office. He's like, yeah, the craziest thing about that, he's like, I've never seen it before. He's like, grown men were sprinting up the aisle, and they came back double-fisted with pop just to throw at us. He's like, I've never seen that before. He's like, first of all, I've never seen that before. He's like, second of all, how is the concession still open? Because the game had been over for, a good 30 to 40 minutes. So that's probably why they have the rules now where the concession closes and the second intermission. Most arenas are halfway through the third. So, oh, man, they're throwing batteries at us. I mean, I probably deserved a little bit. But then, so the next day of practice, me and Colin Kluche, we were bigger guys. So it's back in the wood stick era. And so we had our own pattern. Like usually you don't get a pattern until you're drafted, but it wasn't really a pattern. It was just a left-handed stick that was extra stiff. And those things were like 2x4s. Like you could chop a guy cross-check, and it was really hard to break them. So the next day of practice, I break like 3 of them. And I'm like, what the frig, man? I go to our assistant coach, Big Johnny. And I'm like, what the heck, man? I break like 3 sticks. He goes, what do you think I was hitting the fans with when they were trying to come over the glass? And I'm like, okay, yeah. That makes sense. So, anyway.
Oh, Chris, that's a different Western Hockey League, but I love that era because that, like I said, that was right. I was just getting into the radio business, living in Moose Jaw. We're doing the games on CHB. It was awesome. Bobby Lowe's is your coach. Back then, the coaches were tough. Like Al Tour, you had all these guys. You had Mooner. You had guys that legitimately the coaches could have had their own division. We'll get to that because you are a hockey dad, and I want to get to that in just a bit because you've got a son in the Western Hockey League and a son that played some games in the SJ. The Edmonton Oilers lose to the Florida Panthers in the Stanley Cup, and this for the second year in a row in the Panthers, you won 2 cups, so you're more than qualified to speak on this. What did you see in that series? The first 2 games, everybody, the expectations, it was going to be incredible. And then how it played out, the Panthers in 6. What did you see?
Turnovers. It's hard to win in the playoffs. And, obviously Florida's got a really good team. Everyone's like, the advantage Florida teams have now. But no one brings up the fact that no one wanted to go there 15, 20 years ago because they were terrible.
No.
Actually, when I went there in 2002, we were calling guys up straight from the East Coast, because we had a bunch of injuries, like Freddie Modine, Tim Taylor, Marty St. Louis had broken his leg, I think. And literally we're calling our team was not good. And then the next year we were good. And then, we ended up winning a cup, but, we learned how to win, and we had veteran guys, and Dave Anderchuk was one, Daryl Sedord won a cup. I'd won a cup, and, winning is really hard. And, back, we played against, New Jersey back in 2001, and they had a great team, and we had a great team. We had Patrick Waugh, they had Marty Brodeur, 2 Hall of Famers, but it was literally don't turn the puck over. I remember Game 7, so we were down 3-2. We went on the road, won Game 6. So I actually said that the Oilers aren't out of this. They go back, especially what happened the year before. They were down, and then they just didn't play the right way. In my opinion, it's Florida's a team much like the Devils, where they want to force you into bad decisions. They're really good defensively. They got a good goaltender, obviously, in Bobrovsky, and I love the way Jay Onrait says that, Bobrovsky. So it's my mentality and you have 2 of the best players in the world, if not, depending on who you ask, right? Obviously McDavid and Draisaitl, and, Bouchard had a really good playoffs. He turns the puck over the odd time, but literally it's so hard to tell these great players that want to carry the puck, just dump it in. Like, that's what the Oilers, they fell behind to LA because they didn't want to dump it in. LA's playing a 1-4. Actually, I went to about 4 or 5 games in the playoffs, and then they just got smart and they dumped it in. They took the series over, and LA was gassed because they only played literally 3 lines, and that's literally how they won that series and took it over. And you go again against Florida, again in the finals, and it's frustrating, but again, I'll go back to playing the Devils. Like, it was frustrating playing them. Like, all we worked on in practice was D to the weak side, D to the winger, and you chipped it in. Literally had to land. It was like a curling shot. You had to land it like right on the goal line because Marty Brodeur was so good at playing the puck that if you put it anywhere close to net, like the D wouldn't even go back to play the puck. They'd go to the hash marks. And Marty was like, no offense to their defenseman, but I think he might have been the 3rd best passer, if not 2nd best, in Niedermeyer as far as moving the puck. And he literally sauced it up to him. And as frustrating as it was, you had to do it. And then you just had to wait for your opportunities. You know, we got down 3-2 and we won game 6. And then, you know, game 7, we got up, I think it was 3-1. Alex Tanguay had a couple goals, I believe it was. But I've watched that game a couple times, and we, from the second period on, we literally gave up like 1 prime scoring chance, and nothing against Ray Bork. He's one of the best defensemen of all time. I believe it was Peter Sikora, like, got around him and got in and got an opportunity, and Patty Waugh made an unbelievable save. But we literally gave up 1 prime scoring chance. Like, all we do is chip it off the glass, chip it in, chip it off the glass. We iced it, I don't know, probably 30 times. And is that the most exciting hockey you want to see? No, but is that what it took to win once you're already up? Because once you're up, it's, I mean, the Oilers, like, they're great. They have offensive players. They have a good team, but you're continually trying to come back in games. It's like I think they gassed themselves in game 4. I mean, what an unbelievable game, like, in a comeback, but you can't do that game after game. And like, the series really, for me, was game 2, where, again, they don't have a great start. Or no, they had a good start. I think they scored first, and then they let their foot off the gas, and Florida was up, and then Corey Perry, I believe, was tied it late. And that's your chance. You tie late, you take all the gas, or, you know, wind out of their sails, or whatever analogy you want to use. They tie it up, and you just deflate a team. And then I called Edmonton in double overtime, and Florida ended up scoring. And I mean, right there, you could have been up. You could have been up 2-0, and then you go into Florida, and then you're kind of weak. Game 3 is like awful. Game 4, so you're 2-2, and then you come home game 5, and you just lay an egg, and you're not ready to play. And then game 6 was just. So I don't know, like, everyone says, oh, Draisaitl was injured or whatever, but everyone's injured. And I'm not ripping on those guys. They're way better players than I ever was. But, you know, I like doing the things you need to do to win. And, you know, you have all this talent. Like, we had Peter Forsberg, but he wasn't even playing because he was hurt in Colorado. Like, people forget this. He lost his spleen after game 7. We were out for dinner, and he's like, went to the trainer. He's like, man, I got this pain or whatever. And he had surgery. I believe it was that night. So we didn't even have Peter Forsberg. But what that did is it, you know, like our coach Bob Hartley, you know, there's good things and bad things, you know, about coaches, but he always wanted to play his top guys, and he was killing Ray Bork. Like, he's playing Ray Bork like 40, like, where's a game against St. Louis? We're going in triple overtime. Borky played like 45 minutes, and he was 40 years old, and we had Rob Blake and Adam Foote. But you have those, you know, and the Joe Sakic, those guys, you want to, like, they're unbelievable players. They're Hall of Famers. You want to play them, but you can't play them 25 minutes a night. Like, you just can't as a forward, or 23 minutes. And, you know, I think that's really what's, you know, with the Oilers, when they get down, it's like, what are you going to do? And Woodcroft did the same thing. And I thought Knobloch did a lot of good things. Like, I think, you know, shuffling lines and moving guys around. I'm a big proponent of that. You know, a lot of coaches have pairs now. But if you're playing McDavid and Draisaitl together, what does Florida do at home? They just put Barkov and Ekblad out against them.
I know.
They make the matchups easier.
We're chatting with Chris Dingman, 2-time Stanley Cup champion, former Western Hockey Leaguer with the Brandon Wayne Kings, on the Western Pizza guest hotline. A lot of people listening to this show. There's a lot of Oiler fans everywhere, including Saskatchewan. So now that it's the off season, and now that McDavid's like, I don't know, I got to check with my family. Is he resigning? All of that. In your opinion, what do the Oilers need to do in the off season? What are the holes they need to fill if they're going to go back to the Stanley Cup final next year, or hopefully win this thing? Where do they need to get better?
Well, I think if you have a healthy Zach Hyman, I think that series maybe goes the other way. I mean, who knows? Like, maybe it wouldn't have, but I think the way he plays, and like, he's not the biggest guy, but he just goes. He's like one of those guys that like similar to a Sam Bennett, where he was finishing checks. He goes to net. He's a younger version of Corey Perry, let's say. So you really missed him. If I'm the Edmonton Oilers, and I've said this for years, and whether I'm right, wrong, or whatever opinions are, I'm bringing in guys that won. So you look at Brad Marchand, and everyone's like, wow, you're going to get a first rounder for him, or I think it was a second that turned into a first. I don't follow it too closely, but like I could bring a guy like that into my team that has won and is a miserable little, I mean, he's the greatest guy in the world. He's having a good time. He's been partying for, I don't know, a week or 10 days now, but we're laughing, but that guy wanted to win. And Boston, they didn't want to sign him, or they didn't want, whatever happened, it went sour, and that guy wanted to stay there. I'm doing everything to bring a guy like that in. I'm bringing in guys that have won Stanley Cup champions. I'm bringing in guys that have won because, it's like I was joking with Adam Foote one time because he was a good buddy of mine. He took me under his wing, but he just verbally abused me at the rink. And I'm like, well, man, like he's like invite me over for Monday Night Football, and the next day at the rink, he'd be like, how many beers and chicken wings you have last night? You fat? You know what? I'm like, was that your house, man? Like, whatever. But he was toughening me up, and whatever it may be. But I don't know where I was going with that. But so we went out one night, and he's like, oh, I got to go. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You got a babysitter, man. Don't be a wuss, whatever. And he's like, yeah, I got one tonight, but I don't have one tomorrow morning. And I'm like, yeah, but you got whatever. And he's like, listen, I got to get up. It's my day to get up with the kids. The kids get up at 7 or whatever. And he's basically like, shut it. Like, until you've done it, you don't know. Until you have kids, you don't know what it's like to have kids. Like, oh, having kids is easy. Oh, yeah, really? I have 3 of them. I have 3. My kids are pretty good kids, but it's difficult at times. So it's the same thing for winning. Like, the Oilers, they've been there. But how many guys on their team? They have Corey Perry, I think, was the only guy that's won a Stanley Cup. And, like, he played great. He gave him everything he had. But I'm bringing in guys that have won, because if you want to build a culture, and I think they do, and you saw it with McDavid and Draisaitl, you saw it with Ovechkin, all the star players where, when Ovi won, he decided, I want to win. I want to play defense. I don't care about scoring. I'd rather win. I've scored 50 goals, and right, wrong, or indifferent, if you're talking about the Hall of Fame and whether someone's worthy or not, obviously McDavid and Draisaitl, I think, will be first ballot Hall of Famers, but I think, winning's a big part of it, and guys decide, okay, like I've put up these points, I've won scoring titles, MVPs, I want to win, but you need guys that have done it. You need guys like nothing against Corey Perry. Corey Perry's an unbelievable player, but I think he's he's still playing at 39. I think he was 39, turning 40, and still contributing. But you need to bring in guys that have won and know what it takes, but they're still, I don't want to say it's like elite, not elite players, but like not 4-5 players. And Corey Perry was, nothing against him. Again, he was playing on the first line like half the playoffs, I believe it was, in first power play, because he was so good. He went to the front of the net. He was a miserable, he was fighting, and I would bring in guys like that. Trent Frederick, wasn't 100%, and I think the high ankle sprain. I'd bring in greasy guys. The Oilers have all the skill in the world, and it's fun to watch them play. And those games were nothing like when I played, like 3-0 or 3-1, 4-1. Like that was game over. And today's NHL, like, don't change the station because all of a sudden the game's tied. I would bring in guys that have won and guys that are hard to play against because they have a ton of skill and they're fun to watch, but. You need guys, and again, like you need players that are hard to play against. Like Sam Bennett, like how much money is he going to make? And Marchand, everyone's like, "Wow, look at this guy!" And yeah, because he battles. Like he's not, I don't know, what is he, 5'9", maybe 5'7"? I don't know, somewhere in there. But he's hard to play.
Put on a clinic. Yeah, we're chatting with Chris.
Opportunities.
Yeah. We're chatting with Chris Dingman on the Western Pizza guest hotline. He was a first-round draft pick by the Calgary Flames. The NHL draft will get going on Friday. The game has changed, obviously. You're a hockey dad. Son Hunter played some games with the Estevan Bruins last year. Sawyer plays with the Swift Current Broncos. The hockey is so different now. I feel bad for some of these guys that are going to get drafted or do get drafted that are incredibly talented. They go to teams. Look at Connor Bedard. He's supposed to go fix all the problems in Chicago. That's too much for one player. Is there too much pressure for some of these guys who are 18 years old to come in to try and be saviors of these teams that have had years of mismanagement? It's not their fault, basically, but now you're part of the problem?
Well, I mean, there's pressure everywhere, I think, in every job. And, obviously professional sports, especially hockey in Canada, like most people played hockey. And feel like they could have made it or should have made it. And, you know, I could have had a better career. I could have had a worse career. You know, like things change. And, you know, as you mentioned, I was a first round pick and then the guys who drafted me got fired. And then all of a sudden I'm just another guy. And, you know, I ended up making the team and whatever. And, you know, I could have had more opportunities. Yes. Could have had less, you know, whatever. But, you know, you can set a guy up to fail or you can set him up to succeed. And, you know, touching on Bedard, like he's an unbelievably talented player, you know, but junior's junior, world juniors are world juniors, pro's pro, American Hockey League, NHL. And, you know, I think they went over how many different line mates he had. It was 12 or 16 or whatever the number was. But, you know, having played for Mike Foligno, that family is unbelievable. So to be able to play with Nick, I believe was, Marcus is in Minnesota, but to be able to play with Nick Foligno, he's not the player he once was, but he's still a really good player. And, you know, that team it's not the best team, but, you know, I watched him play and I was watching a broadcast and Mark Messier, one of the greatest players of all time. And, you know, growing up in Edmonton, I like Gretzky, but I love Messier because he was a really good player, but he was also tough. And he, you know, his elbows obviously would be suspendable in today's era. And back then, I think it was like maybe a 2-minute minor, but I was watching a game and he was going over a video and he was showing Bedard in the defensive zone and he's swinging around, he's flying the zone. He's the centerman. And he's like, then he put him back on the power play. Like, what message are you sending to your team? And you're right. Like, it's a lot of pressure to put on one guy, but that kind of goes with, you know, like where you're drafted. If you're a top pick, you're a top pick, right, wrong, or different. It's how you handle it and having the right people around you. And, but one thing you have to do, and if you want to play at the elite levels, like you can't be one dimensional. If you're a goal scorer, like I coached girls hockey for 3 years and, you know, the U18 level and, you know, we're just getting them scholarships so they could go to school. Well, they were getting themselves scholarships. Sorry, let me correct myself. We were helping them. They were doing the work. But, you know, all I would tell them is like, you're a goal scorer. You're a great player. You're a really talented player, but you're not going to go to college and you're not going to step in. You're not going to play in the top 6. If you want to go D1, you're not playing in the top 6 for a year or 2, maybe 3 years. So how are you going to play? Like, how are you going to get ice time? Because if you can kill penalties, win face-offs, you're hard to play against, you get pucks out, you get pucks in, win battles, that can get you into the lineup. And even if you're a skilled player and you're a goal scorer, and, you know, maybe that's part of, like, some of the troubles that Connor Bedard's have. He's not the biggest guy, but you look at Brad Marchand, look at some of these other undersized guys. If you learn how to do the other things, you learn how to play defense. So if I want to score goals, and, you know, this is what I talk to them too, and even my kids, is that, so if you have the puck in your own end, let's say you're in your own end for 15 or 20 seconds, and it comes up to you on the wing, and you just throw it away, it goes back in, you're another 10 seconds probably guaranteed in your own end. And then you're going to go try and play offense after being on the ice for, you know, let's say 30, 40 seconds, somewhere there. Now you're going to go try and score. Do you have any energy left? Maybe a little bit, but you probably shouldn't if you're battling down low in the centerman. And then you're going to go try and score. Do you have energy to do that? Not really. And then you're going to go try and score, and then you're going to change on the back check, or you're going to go back and then get, you know, play defense and then get it in and change or whatever. So I think it's a learning process for a lot of players, and hopefully, you know, like you mentioned, Bedard figures out. I mean, there's a lot of great young players, and hopefully they can surround them with other players. But, you know, I'm a big proponent of, you have to do the little things, because the little things turn into big things in the playoffs and the regular season. Well, more so, obviously, in the playoffs. I mean, look at Game 6. I think it was Bouchard who had a great playoff run, and, you know, I think he has Edmonton fans loving him and hating him, and sometimes because he makes these unbelievable plays, and then these other plays are like, oh my God, man, what are you doing? Like backhand sauce at the middle of your own end. But I tell him, like, people are like, oh, he's like whatever. But part of what makes him good is he has so much puck poise, and he doesn't panic, and he toe drags, and he moves around, and, you know, whatever. And I had lunch with a guy yesterday, and he's like, how many shots did he get through? And I'm like, it's like virtually impossible to get a shot through. Like, if you watch games, like the way guys are coached, it's all about shooting lanes, sticks in passing lanes, and then everyone's in a shooting lane. So you really need like 2 good passes, maybe 3 that are a bing bang, and then to get a one-timer. Like the one goal he scored, I believe it was in the finals. He wheels in, takes a clapper, drills the guy in the hip, puck bounces back to him, takes a slap shot and scores on Bobrovsky because I think it was the winger, yeah, was screening him. He couldn't see the puck, and he was like looking like, where's, you know, what do we want me to do on that? But like, it's so hard to get shots through, and like teams are coached to play defense and be in the right spot. And the Florida Panthers were a team that So yeah, it's there's a lot of pressure on guys. Obviously, you look at the Oilers for years, like they didn't have good teams. You know, those guys had to battle through it, and they've had a taste of success. So there is definitely a lot of pressure, but I mean, that's why they pay him the big bucks too.
All right, Chris Dingman will wrap on this, and we really appreciate your time. It's been 21 years, and I remember I was living in Calgary at the time, and you crushed us. Okay, in your honest opinion, in Game 6, after watching the replay a million times, what, in your opinion, was that goal in? Did the Flames score to win?
They did not. So we did a.
Okay.
TV, you saw the TV angles, which was not directly down, so it was really hard to see. So we actually did a Zoom during COVID. So whatever, I'm not going to go down the COVID whatever, but everyone started doing Zooms and whatever, video or whatever you want to call it. So we did a Zoom with our team, and we did a couple. Actually, we did one where we rewatched Game 7. And all the guys were on it and having a few, and a few F-bombs were dropped, and guys were like, yeah, you're actually live on Twitter, like, you know, or X, whatever it's called now. Anyway, so we did a Zoom, like just our team, our entire team, and Tortorella didn't get on it, but Craig Ramsey, our assistant coach, and Jeff Reese, and our video coach, Nigel Curtin, and Nigel's been in Tampa for, I think, like 30 years. He's the longest standing employee, I believe. Unbelievable guy. But he showed, so he was showing like all the, you know, because we had cameras following us and stuff. So we were watching behind the scenes, and it was pretty funny. Some of the chirping and different things. And Andre Waugh, who's an unbelievably hilarious guy. A lot of it was him. But anyway, so we're doing the Zoom, and he goes, for those of you that think it was in, so he showed us the straight overhead camera. So that Toronto sees, you know, when they review a goal or whatever, they have a camera that's like literally right over the crossbar. So he showed us a video, and, you know, to overturn a call, you have to see some white, right? You have to see the puck, and you have to see, like, and you couldn't see any white. And he's like, just so anyone, and also to what I'll say to that is that there was also double overtime, and there was also Game 7. So
I know
that didn't win. Didn't win the series, but that was all we know. But literally, all we talked about, and like, but in that game is that the disappointment. Those guys, and I was, you know, good friends with Joe McGinley. We trained together, and Stefan. You know, I knew a bunch of guys on Calgary, and like all I said before the game is like, all let's worry about is having a good warm up and a good first shift, and just get it in. Just get it in. The longer the game goes along, the more pressure on them, and you know, they thought they'd scored, they didn't, and then we scored, and we just ripped their hearts out because the cup was in the building, and you know, that's heavy on, and that's what I said. That's what I said last year with when Edmonton was trying to come back and they won those 3 in a row. And I'm like, Edmonton, just go Game 7, just go on the road and just dump it in, just dump the puck in. Don't even try and score, just don't turn it over, because the longer it goes, the pressure's on the other team. And well, then we saw how that went. So it's like Dingman, you know, sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't.
I got 3 of my own. Trust me, I know they don't. Yeah. Chris Dingman, thank you. This was awesome. I hope that we could do it again. It's Chris Dingman, 2-time Stanley Cup champion, former Brandon Wheat King. If he did end up punching you in the stands in Regina in the early 90s, let's let bygones be bygones. I mean, sorry. Statute of limitations is run out. Hey, Chris, have a great summer. Yeah. We appreciate this. Yes, have a great night.
Well.
It's Chris Dingman on the Western Pizza guest hotline. Time to take a break. When we come back, CFL Week 4 kicks off tomorrow night, and Morgan Runge will join the show as well. Dave Thomas had a chance to catch up with him at practice. This is the Sports Cage on the home of local sports, 620 CKRM. The Edmonton Oilers have traded Evander Kane to the Vancouver Canucks for a 4th-round draft pick. They not only get rid of Kane's $5 million, but they give themselves the opportunity to potentially, as everybody says, maybe sign Thatcher Demko as a free agent in the offseason. That would cost around that same $5 million that they just cleared. Major League Baseball, it's the top of the 4th inning. The Toronto Blue Jays and the Cleveland Guardians are tied at 1. Max Scherzer is pitching for the Jays. 55 pitches thrown so far, 33 of those have been strikes for the 40-year-old. And tonight, Western Canadian Baseball League, the Regina Red Sox are on the road. They're in Saskatoon to take on the Berries. First pitch at Cairns Field goes at 7:05. That's your Steelcraft Doors sports ticker. It's Maz in for Barney along with Colson. So we just had on Chris Dingman. Wow, what a guy. I bet you if we sat around Colson And we had a few Pilsner. He could tell stories for days. Now, he started the interview, and if you missed it, you can go back and listen to the podcast. But Colson, I'm very curious because he started off with, I'm surprised somebody from Regina wanted to have me on their radio station because when he played as a Brandon Wheat Kings, he said he was in a fight in the stands with a bunch of fans. And you think you found the footage?
Potentially. It says March 28th, 1994. I am currently getting a copy of it. And give me a minute and I'll throw it up on the screen here. But yeah, it's definitely Brandon and Regina throwing hands all over the ice. And there's one clip at the end of a fan trying to climb over the plexiglass, which that's kind of what sold it for me. I'm like, okay, this might be it.
Yeah. And now Colson, so you weren't alive in 94, correct?
94, no.
Okay. Now, back then, the Western Hockey League was a little like the Wild West. It wasn't as crazy as it was in the 80s. And the 80s weren't as crazy as it were in the 70s. But the early 90s in the dub was a lot of fun. And you would see stuff like this because the world was different. Not everybody got arrested for stuff like this. Nobody got canceled. There was no social media. There was no internet. There was no cell phones for video. You kind of had to be there, and there maybe be the odd camera, but that wouldn't be the first time. I remember some of those, the Brandon Regina, the Brandon Moose Jaw, because the teams were tough. The coaches were tough. It was just a different breed of hockey. Even the play-by-play guys had to be able to hold their own. So Chris Dingman tells the story of how him and Cloutier were in the stands fighting the fans. But the fans, apparently, were throwing soft drinks on them, hitting them with batteries, and whatever else they can get their hands on.
And equipment managers fighting back with wooden sticks. It screams 90s.
Oh, I missed that. Oh, that was a golden era. Do we have the video?
1 second. Let's see if
and then crank up the audio on that too, because there's going to have to be.
There wasn't audio.
No,
it was just kind of think of it as like a highlight reel with no audio behind it. I'm just going to.
But he also said something very telling. So Chris Dingman won. He was a first round draft pick back in '94 by the Flames, and then he said the guys that drafted him got fired, and that this is what happens. These kids drafted all the potential, junior. Okay, so is this?
I think that's the hit that starts it, and then there we go, straight into it.
Oh, goalies are fighting.
Yeah,
line brawl, because he mentioned line brawl. Then the line brawl escalates. Is that Dingman right there?
I don't know what number it is. That would be good information to have.
Is he 24? Ooh, he's just giving it to somebody. I think he said Jeff Petruick from the Pats came off the bench. And then that's what really got things going. Ooh, there's some guys throwing some bombs. There they are.
And then they start getting it under control. People standing around, and no, we're back at it.
Now we're back. There we are. And they are throwing bombs. Man, even if you weren't tough back then, you had to be tough. Like, look at that goalie fight right there is better than some fights you're getting nowadays, for sure. I love it, because not only are they fighting, but they're wearing mullets that aren't ironic just because they thought they were good. Oh, here's the fans coming over the glass. I think this is it.
Yeah, that's a good chance. And that's all there is. That's 1:12, which really it's about a minute.
Line brawl. He lives in Edmonton. That's where his life is, his wife, his kids. He goes to Oiler games. He's hilarious on Twitter. At Dingdash is to follow. But in asking him, what do the Oilers need to do to get themselves over the hump? And his answer was, you need to bring in players that have won Stanley Cups. That's what you need to add to your team. Connor and Leon are going to be Connor and Leon, but they need to have guys around them with experience that have won. And the other important thing he said too is these guys that are scorers need to learn to be able to dump the puck in. Stan Bowman, If you weren't listening to Dingman's interview, we can send you a copy to get it solved. Time to take a break here on the Sports Cage, but when we come back, Morgan Runge and Dave Thomas. We saw Morgan have a nice little role last week in Toronto. This week in Big Test with the BC Lions coming to town as the Riders look to go 4-0. We'll do that next. This is the Sports Cage. We're streaming on our YouTube channel at sportscage.com and on the radio here at 620 CKRM. Inning, Cleveland Guardians leading the Jays now 3-1. That'll do it for today's show. Hey, thanks for being part of it. If you've missed anything, you can go back on demand on your timetable. And you can listen on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon, or you can watch on YouTube. Shaq Evans was on the show today, former Saskatchewan Roughrider, CFL legend Charleston Hughes, and Chris Dingman, all-time beauty and two-time Stanley Cup champion with the Avalanche and the Tampa Bay Lightning. CFL Week 4 kicks off tomorrow night. Edmonton's in Winnipeg. Riders are getting ready for BC. And Dave Thomas had a chance to catch up with Morgan Runge, who's part of this Rider offense, who has things rolling. Here's Dave and Morgan.
You know, you hear the best seat in the house. Well, Morgan Runge, I would suggest that you had the best running seat in the house with Mario Alford when he dashed to the end zone last week in Toronto, because I think you were the first guy right behind him. Tell me about that play.
Yeah, so we decided to take it to the boundary there. Coach Majiri was saying, he was asking Coach Mace, like, can I go to the field? And before the game, Majiri told Mace to tell him no anytime he asked. So he said, screw it, we're going to go to the boundary. We ended up having a double on one of their guys there and able to get him kind of like thrown into the pile. They only had 11 guys on the field, so I'm turning to find some work. I fell off my block, and I'm looking for a guy, and I see Mario just running straight into the end zone there. So, yeah, I was like about 5 yards behind him, just trying to keep up with them.
Does that slow down or go in slow motion in front of you as the play is developing?
Not quite. Like it's still like playing at the same speed, but you just kind of see that everything's opened up. There's kind of like that calmness, that confidence that we're gonna go score. You kind of get 25 yards out. You see there's a big halo around Mario, and you're like, oh, we're gonna win. We're gonna win in regulation. It's really exciting.
Take me through your journey with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. You mentioned confidence, and your confidence appears to be at an all-time high, even though you battled from junior to university to this stage. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so it all started back in 2022 there. I wasn't able to play in youth sports that year. I didn't take care of school, so, take care of school first and foremost. So I didn't get to play, but that was my draft year. And I was like, well, I guess I missed my shot. I'll see what happens once I get back on the field in 2023. I guess my coach, now the president of the Elks, Chris Morris, he was talking to some of the scouts, talked to Kyle Carson, and the Roughriders were thinking about picking me up in some of the later rounds. I was watching on draft night, and I didn't get picked in the draft, but following the draft, I got a call shortly after by Kyle, and he said, hey, we want to bring you out to camp. And, I hadn't stepped on the field for like over a year, since like December of 2021. So I was like, oh my God, the first time I'm getting back on the field is going to be, at a professional camp. So went out camp there in May of 23 there. Had a great experience, learned a lot. Was told, it's like, we like you, but we think you're going to be better served if you go back for a year, which I wasn't upset about that too much. I was looking forward to getting back on the field with the Bears. And then 2024 rolled around. Unfortunately, I just didn't make the cut there. Clint Rakovic, he had a really great camp. He's a very good football player, so decided to go with Clint there. No hard feelings about that. Clint's a good guy. He's a buddy of mine. So yeah, I was back in the grind with U of A. We put in an appeal, and I had extra eligibility, so I was able to play another year with U of A. Then December rolled around, and Kyle said, hey champ, want to give it one more shot? And I was like, you betcha, man, let's do it. And this year I was able to stick, and got some opportunity to start at fullback a few games here, and it's been awesome. It's been really awesome.
Have you had something to prove, a chip on your shoulder, anything like that coming in, or any pressure at all?
Definitely pressure. I got, having been like released basically 2 times, it kind of felt like crunch time. It's when I was being explained making the jump from U Sports to CFL, a lot of the guys are saying, you know, in your second year and that's when you got to show that you can be on the field and you can be an impact player. Otherwise, you're just not going to be here. And having this been my third camp, you know, it was really kind of going through my head. It's like, if I don't do it this time, it's probably going to be over. So, you know, I just worked hard in the off season. Had the privilege of still working with U of A during their spring practices, and you know, shout out to them for helping me get ready. And I was able to come out and do really well in camp, and yeah, just have a spot on the team here.
Now, if memory serves correct, you were on the team that was in the Hardy Cup final at UBC.
Yeah.
One of the most heartbreaking moments I've ever witnessed in football all around. How did you ever get over that, or is that still a burr in your saddle?
Oh, well, in 2024, week 1, we beat the tires off them, so that definitely helped out. But, you know, it was a very heartbreaking game. I don't know if it's like quite a privilege, really. I've been in quite a few of those games, PFC finals against, you know, Saskatoon Hilltops, or even semifinals against Regina Thunder. Same with the Hardy Cup and that. And it never was really felt like about me, but like seeing those fifth-year guys, and this is their last run at football, and, you know, just seeing like the pain from like all the hard work and determination that they put in, and now it's looking like their football career is over. That, you know, it's very tough to watch, you know. So, you know, hoping to not have to see that too many more times, you know, it's a great motivating factor, I'd say.
Any pinch myself moments that, oh my gosh, I'm here, I'm playing the Canadian Football League?
Yeah, definitely. That first game, week 1 against Ottawa, it was, I think, about like 6 minutes into the first quarter, and I'm like, wasn't on any special teams. I think Coach Bajeri was trying to limit me just because I was like last man standing for fullback, so I'm just standing there waiting, and starting to get the jitters. It's like, I just got to get out there and like hit someone, and, you know, basically tell myself, it's like, yeah, okay, you can take a hit, you're going to be alive, you know. so yeah, definitely trying to get that, you know, first hit on the field, like, out of the way, and then it's like, all right, yeah, I'm alive, we're rolling. It's able to kind of calm down after that and just kind of get into the game flow. So, yeah.
Well, dare I say, so far so good. And like I say, when I saw you sprinting right behind Mario, I thought, there's a guy that's pretty excited. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.